Hey there, everyone. Good morning. My name is Michael Hinrichs with Pembina, but really with Jordan Cove. That's probably the more popular name that you know around here. It's always good to be here. Thank you for having me. Some friendly faces down here staring at me, hoping I have good news. So I'm from a project in Oregon. Oh, is this? I'm getting it. Oh. Wonder if I... There we go. So I'm from a project in Oregon, and so why would I even be out here? But first, I'll just give a high-level overview of what Jordan Cove is and the Pacific Connector Pipeline, how it relates back here, and then we'll kind of get into why it counts to western Colorado and some of the other Rocky states. So Jordan Cove is an LNG facility, liquefied natural gas facility in Oregon being proposed right now. It started in 2004, so we've been around a while. I've been on the project about 7 years. This will be third time's a charm going through permitting, so it's been a marathon. You know, lots of persistence, but it's always been great to be working on the project and kind of the promise that it has for not just Oregon, but for other regions out here. This is what it looks like. Oh, no, it's not.
So turn that remote around
and
hit the right button.
And hit the right button. There we go. Here we go. That's what it looks like. Storage tanks. So everybody asks how much gas we're processing, and there are a bunch of different metrics on how you can talk about it, but it's roughly a BCF a day. So the facility is rather large. The processing of it is pretty substantial. Facilities like this exist all around the world, just not the west coast of the United States. I've worked on competing projects to this. There have been about 30 of them over the last 30 years. This is the last one standing. So we're really trying to do something special and unique. There are facilities down in Mexico. There are facilities up in British Columbia. But we would be, and I'll show you, a really direct path to kind of get Rockies Basin supply out to Asia-Pacific markets. Nope. Here we go. All right, so why Jordan Cove? Again, there's just a lack of the ability to get gas out from the west coast of the United States. There are a lot of implications of that. We can't directly go to some of the largest growing markets in the world, and as we become a greater producer of natural gas, and by us I mean North America in general. Yes, here in the Rockies, but North America in general. You know, we want to be able to leverage that abundant supply. Our project over on the West Coast can tap into all of North American supply basins. It's one of the best advantages that we have on this project, just because we're able to tap into the Malin hub in Oregon, which is basically right across the border from California, which currently serves all of the West Coast of the United States. And here is what we're looking at. Prices in the U.S. down there at the bottom, and then prices in Asia-Pacific as they're forecasted out. And this is probably a more conservative forecast, because everybody asks, how do you know that this project's going to be profitable? Well, because a $10 billion project like ours doesn't really, hey, let's risk it and just see if it works. These are 20-year contracts. And out of all of the Asia-Pacific countries, you're starting to watch them shift, either ramp up or shift to more natural gas use, whether that's Japan, China, South Korea, India, looking at traditional, countries that already have a lot of natural gas use, but looking to switch who they're getting it from. Would you rather, famously, David Ludlam, some of you know him, had the quote of, would you rather get your gas from, at the time, John Hickenlooper or Vladimir Putin? I think that's a great statement because it's just so true. It kind of gives some insight into how the countries are starting to look at U.S. gas supply as a means to get off of more geopolitical sensitive, players around the world. So the person who was going to be up here, Scott Atha, is our Senior Vice President of Commercial. He's busy negotiating contracts right now, so he couldn't make it. He sends his best, but he hopes you all understand that he's got a big job to do. And so I'm not going to dive deep because I know just enough to get in trouble on all of the global market stuff. But this is one that I want everybody to pay attention to, because a lot of times people say, but Jordan Cove is going to be a greenfield facility. It's going to cost a ton of money. Yeah, true, but kind of similar to all the other projects. But if you look at that red bar, that's transportation costs. And in the long run, transportation costs is what is becomes the cost of transporting LNG all over the world. And this is why. When you're coming out of the Gulf Coast, where these projects already exist or they're retrofitting to actually export, you're looking at huge transportation costs. And more so, you're looking at questionable routes, and I'll get to that. But for us, we cut the time in half. So it says 27 days, which includes the actual delivery of the gas, taking care of the ship, resupplying and everything. But really, from the port of Coos Bay, where we're proposing, to Tokyo Bay, where the LNG facilities are. I'm not saying that it's all going to Tokyo, but as an example, that's just 11 days. That's the exact same time that it would take to go from current suppliers in Eastern Australia up to Tokyo Bay. And of course, that's the most advantageous. Really what we're looking at is other things. We don't have the hurricane risk of the Gulf Coast and that getting shut down. We don't have the Panama Canal constraints. So anybody who has been following this, and I have no idea if you have or haven't, something that we certainly look at, the Panama Canal expansion didn't take into consideration this increase in LNG volume around the world. So they only have a limited amount of slots of ships like an LNG ship to go through. Really, it's just once a day. And that does not equal the global demand of LNG. And so all of a sudden, if you have a West Coast facility that doesn't have that constraint, we become one of the most strategic projects in the entire world. How does that connect in to the Rockies, and why? I should also mention the counties of Colorado have been huge supporters of us. Thank you for that. They've signed MOUs to be part of third-party organizations that promote Jordan Cove, among other things. They've written letters of support into all of our permitting dockets. They've been quoted in media. They've showed up in Oregon itself, which riles up our supporters. So thank you for that. But right here, the Ruby Pipeline is what I would like to talk about and kind of emphasize of why we're here. When Pembina bought Jordan Cove, they also bought the 50% market share in the Ruby Pipeline. So yes, you have competitive pricing all over the United States, but there is, I can't say for certain because it's still all being negotiated, but when you look at it, Jordan Cove creates a 230-mile pipeline that then connects directly into Ruby. There's strategic marketing right there for us as vertical integration is concerned, and then certainly for you in opening up a hub where right now you've got to compete with everything going through the Gulf Coast. And again, I can't say what's going to happen. I personally think that it's going to be a mix of gas. Again, we process a lot of it. I don't think that any of our customers are going to want to, put all eggs in one basket. So I think that it'll be a mix of the Canadian basin and down here. But this first part is the customers are who determines the suppliers. And I believe that those conversations have started to occur. They might be ongoing. I don't know because I am not privy to those. But essentially, the customers get to determine their supply basins. And that's really important because they are looking for stability. They are looking for growing basins that know that they have the supply there. They're looking for competitive advantage of not having to go through the spaghetti landfill that is the pipeline network heading down to Texas and Louisiana. And I think that they are looking for, or to a certain degree, on top of pricing, they are looking into kind of the social license to operate. And I think Colorado has a great kind of story to tell there. Then they are also in charge of the actual delivery. So think of Jordan Cove as really a gas station. We do the processing, we get the product to the LNG ships, and then they deal with all of it. So you can talk to me after this. Again, this is more of my counterpart was going to be able to talk about this a little more in how the actual suppliers can talk with customers. But if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to push it along and get you some answers. Project update and timeline. So this is the magic crystal ball that's been going on for 14 years. We are now back in the heart of permitting and trying to do it faster than we ever had before. Our previous time permitting was 4.5 years. This time we're going for about 18 months. That's fun for me. So we've awarded, on our technical side and engineering, all of that has advanced. We're pretty good there. Commercial agreements continue to advance. I feel confident there. We are into the FERC permitting. So Right now, we are in a public comment period. Somebody can go ahead and ask me, what can we do to help? I'll anticipate that question or answer it myself. We have FERC permitting right now. We're hoping to get our final EIS this year with then a determination of our certificate in January of 2020, unless FERC wants to hurry that up and maybe still give it to us in 2019. That'd be great. But either way, that still leads to a 4.5-year construction time period, and we export in 2024. That's the goal. So it's a long lead time, but it's well worth the wait, in my opinion. Then we look at things like state permitting and local permitting. All of that is hopefully going to be done in parallel with federal permitting. It's a huge lift, lots of moving parts, but so far so good. We've had open comment periods for various state agencies. We believe that we have an incredibly robust record. After 14 years of data requests, we're pretty sure we've nailed our applications. That'll still yet to be seen. And again, we anticipate everything to be happening, the first quarter of next year of all the approvals coming in so that we can hit our mark of 2024. That's the highest level kind of Jordan Cove that I could give. I do want to open it up to questions since our project is kind of different than some of the other presentations today. But I am going to start with my own question because I got it from some CMU students, which is recently President Trump signed the executive order regarding water permits and the state water permit. How does that impact Jordan Cove? I have a wish-washy answer, mostly because we're different than a standard pipeline because we have an LNG facility attached to us. Our team is looking into what that means for our project. But really, we have said this year after year after year. It's kind of no matter what has, over 14 years, we've seen a lot out of the federal government as well as our own state government. We're just focused on the permits at hand. If something helps us, that's great. But we have so many permits that we need to get through. It's 36 major permits along with dozens of the minor permits. So we still need to get through all the state stuff. So some people got really excited when they saw that and emailed me and said, this is fantastic news for you. And I was like, I actually don't know if it even applies to us. So that's how I'll kick off Q&A.